All right, so I have a skinfession today. The skinfession is that we are running this podcast and we have no idea what we're talking about when we first start these things. Not even a little bit. We literally just put this show together in 10 minutes?
Don't tell them our secrets.
Let's get this show started. Hi, I'm Sybil. I'm an esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex. I am a body nerd and wellness expert, and we are business besties.
And bosses. And running your own business, it's hard.
So hard. But we're terrible employees, so we're figuring it out.
I've already figured it out, but we promise to do our best to help you get 6 figures.
And be brutally honest about what sucks and what works, but also what totally sucks.
I'll be honest, a bunch of it totally sucks. And as I was saying that, I'm going to be honest with you, it's been harder and harder. So it's sucking more and more these days. So let's get started.
Let's turn the suckage up to 11 is what's going on. Welcome back to Skinfessional, where we are so honest that we say, what do you want to talk about? This is what's real. Then let's talk about it. So on today's show, we are talking about how to stop caring about what other people are saying about you.
And why you have to kind of just not care about what they're saying so that you can just move forward and show it better for yourself and everyone else.
Amen. It has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. And if you are feeling personally attacked, this show is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So on our last episode, we talked about fear and how to move through the fear. And there were some really fascinating responses and reflections that came up. So Sybil, share some of what people were thinking and feeling when they heard that episode.
So we had probably more responses than I've had in a long time. And one of them I got was really, really long. And I thank you for sharing that one with me. But we actually had a lot of responses. And the primary thing that we got back over and over again is, first of all, estheticians are mean to each other. So I have not found this to be true. So thank you, SDs, who are either A, afraid of me and don't want to talk smack to me personally, or hey, my group of people, thanks for being awesome to me. Because estheticians apparently you flame each other. So let's be kinder to each other. Also, that estheticians, apparently we are kind, gentle souls and therefore very sensitive. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Very sensitive. So there was a lot of conversation about, one, going into groups, our own esthetician groups, and putting up something and then somebody being all just trolling, just smashing somebody down and being you're wrong and you're stupid. And whoa.
Mm.
There's one thing to be hey, I have a disagreement or I have a different way of thinking about that. And there's another thing to just straight up tell somebody that they're stupid or that they are wrong about something. Because especially in my industry, there is so many different ways to think about something.
Mm-hmm.
And same with yours, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's subjective.
Oh, 1,000%. And I think, let me tell you a story. So if you watch the show on YouTube, you know that I look younger than I actually am. So I'm 32. I still get carded. Hallelujah. Including for a rated R movie. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? But I digress. So when I first started teaching trainings for personal trainers and yoga teachers and, other professionals in my industry, I ran up against a lot of kind of pushback of my authority in the room. And to the point where people would be having their own side conversations or literally going off and doing their own shit in the corner while I'm trying to teach. And It was disrespectful and very distracting. And so after every time, think about it. What the heck happened? And how can I set myself up so that this never happens again? And I realized that it was how I was showing up in the room. That I was showing up, and I think I feel like I used to make jokes too about how young I was. And it's not just how you speak, because I really don't think that I've changed. I haven't matured in my speech or anything like that. But the energy that you give when you show up in a room, when you show up online, when you show up anywhere, like it matters. And I think it's easier to think like, oh, well, when I'm working with a client, like they already have some sort of respect because you know more than them, or they wouldn't be there with you. And when it's with our peers, that's where it definitely like people can be assholes, you know? So I made a decision to kind of like embody the word like gravitas for me was like really important. And I think, you know, for those of you listening, it may be different, like what that energy is that you need to step into. And so I really, and we've talked about this with like money and other things, like who would I be if I already was that person who commanded respect, not just from my clients, but also from my colleagues. And maybe it's not commanded respect. Maybe it's almost seeing yourself as equal, which changes, again, how you show up, the kinds of conversations you're having, the things that you're asking, right?
Yeah.
When even in a Facebook group, you go in and you make a post and you're asking for permission, that's way different than asking for feedback. And it's not just like I'm asking for feedback versus writing, I'm asking for permission. It's again in how, like even what the topic is and how you ask it and how you show up. So think about, you know, who is it that I want to be? And for me, it was someone who I walked in the room and my age wasn't even a question. Nobody asked. And like they didn't care because they were learning and getting what they needed out of the course. And then that started happening. And it actually became really funny because people at the end, like sheepishly, right? It'd be the best way they come up like, so I hate to ask, but like, how old are you? And then I'd be like happily telling them because there was, you know, like this respect both ways. So I think that same experience, or I'd say exercise, grab your journal. Who do I need to become? And write that shit down because you have to like articulate it before you can start to become it.
Yeah.
I would also say too, and I want you to talk more about this. We started talking about this and you're like, I've never had this. I don't even know. And I was like, no shit, Sherlock.
No, but then you talked about that. And I do have a story. I have a story as well.
Okay,
I do have a story. Okay. No. Grab your journal. I want you to actually give an exercise on this because you were so good at exercises.
Oh, that's it. Who do I need to be, or like who would I be? That's the question.
Yeah,
who would I be if I was the person, or if I even like led among equals?
That's such a good one. Who would I be if I led among equals?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one. Yeah. And what does that look like?
Mm-hmm. And
Right?
I mean, for each of us, it's going to look like something different. But I think starting with what would that even look like and really picturing it and articulating it so that you can start to make the conscious decisions to step into that energy more.
Right. I actually taught a class just recently, but right before COVID. And I do believe I had somebody in that class who was giving me trouble. If I remember correctly, I actually called you, Alex, and I was like, Alex,
what do I do?
What would you do? What would you do? So I taught a class, and it was the first time I taught this particular class. And I had somebody who was a body worker in the class. And as far as I knew, you know, I felt that she was just as qualified, if not more so, to teach specific sections of this class. Because as an esthetician, I'm teaching what I consider massage techniques that I feel very confident to do. But like a body worker, as far as I'm concerned, they know even more about the body, right? And so I would look to her and she'd be like, poo-pooing. And I'd just be like, hey, girl, well then, I'm happy to listen. But like, you also came in very aggressively, like not wanting to learn, in my opinion. And so there's a difference for me in like, hey, I have things to say or tips to advice. And I just have like, I don't want to actually be here and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And the thing is, like, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. So I believe that. And so I would just sit there and be like, listen, you can either be here or you don't have to be here. And I would take her aside and have conversations, But I asked Alex, I'm like, so what would you do in this situation? How would you handle this? I went to my peers.
I was going to say, I don't remember what I said.
And you essentially said like, Sybil, it's like when you like have a yoga person who comes in and they're just like, I already know how to do all this and I'm in this and like, I don't believe in your method. right? And you're just like, there's no hell for those people,
No,
right?
well, you're not going to convince them.
Right. And so you're just like, and you're like, you gave me examples of things to do, and I'm like, I tried all that, and you're like, so you just got to leave them. And I was like,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, that's what I did.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but once again, I fully believed in myself and my knowledge. And I think that that's where, if you're coming into that, you have to have that belief. So when we started this conversation, I'm like, I've never had that happen, because I had completely forgotten it. Because in my mind, I was like, I knew what I was doing. I always know what I'm doing. It's fine.
Right. But I think that is like the underlying theme of everything we talk about. To be a successful business owner, you have to know what you're talking about. And if you don't, then go and learn it. Like, I don't think any one of us doesn't have the capacity to go learn a skill. Like, that's literally what we do,
Right.
But if you aren't confident, then why the hell is anybody else going to respect you?
Right. And even if you feel like you're like, I shouldn't, like, I don't know this, know that you probably know it enough and better than most people. And I always say, be willing to be flexible and understand. So like, if somebody comes to me and they're like, I have this alternate form, one of my very favorite estheticians, we do not see eye to eye in almost anything when it comes to skincare. Like, I love to keep her in my group because, like, we don't see eye to eye. She's always pushing my boundaries. I'm like, I don't believe in anything you do. You're a crackpot. But, like, at the same time, like, honestly, I'm like, I don't believe in anything you do for the skin. And it's not that it's not based in science. It's just like, it's not what I believe in. But when I listen to her talk, she makes me think differently. She pushes my boundaries of thought. And once in a while, I'll sit there and be like, oh, I don't believe in that, but maybe. Let me think on that some. I don't know. It's going to percolate in there. I'm like, no, I don't like that. Maybe. I don't know. Let me percolate on that. And so those are the kind of people that like you want to keep who push you. You never want to be the smartest person in the room.
No, find a new room.
Totally. So if you are sitting around saying, but this person made me feel stupid. I went into an aesthetic group and they made me feel stupid. You have to look at yourself and be like, did they make you feel stupid, or because they were mean, or did they just kind of make you feel a little uncomfortable?
Well, also, can we just talk about for a second that nobody can make you feel anything? That's a choice that you make. Which is when I realized this, I was like, dang it, every point in any argument I've ever had with my husband is mute, because I was like, well, you made me feel. And I'm like, oh, wait, I guess that was just me. My bad. But when we take things personally, right? Oh, well, they made me feel this way or this or that. Like, it's never about you, ever. Like, even the people closest to us, the way they react and what they say and how they come at us, it has everything to do with them and where they are, in their mindset this day, and like what's going on, their background, their story, all of that stuff. It has everything to do with that and them, and nothing to do with you. And also, when people come and give you feedback, did you actually ask for feedback? That's another big one that I'm playing with. Hey, if I didn't even ask for feedback, I don't have to accept what you gave me. Even if you're being a mean asshole, if you are mansplaining up the goddamn wazoo, I never asked for your feedback. How weird is it that you felt like you could just come in here and give it to me? No thanks. Which also is a response that I am entertaining. I haven't had the opportunity yet to use it, but thanks so much for your feedback. I wasn't actually looking for any.
Oh, that's super nice of you to say that. I usually am just like, that's sweet. I rather that's sweet. It's like the best way to say that. So if you really want to like piss people, I'm really good at pissing people off. If you like, you can take it in like, oh, that's sweet.
That's cute.
And that's it. Yeah, that's sweet. And then just walk away.
I have another story. There's so many of these opportunities, and I think I'm learning, and part of what is happening in the world and stepping into voicing my opinion on politics, on human rights, on all of that a little bit more has opened me up for more critique and feedback. And each time I'm like, ooh, I don't like how that made me feel because of this. How can I do better next time?
Yeah.
It's practice. We're learning. I posted about some bullshit diet culture nonsense that the Kardashians were peddling.
Yes. By the way, I love that you're doing this. I love your pillar. I love this pillar.
Thank you. Well, I realized too that it was something, we've been talking about and I am living, but not talking about publicly, and so talking about it has definitely opened up. And I want to make a space where people feel comfortable, like to do fitness, to do wellness, even if they don't look a certain way, Part of it too, like, okay, so this post was how to burn the most amount of calories in the shortest amount of time. And it was Kim Kardashian in her high-waisted bike shorts, which, by the way, were not cool in the 90s when I was trying to pull them off either, okay? And so I just was talking about how the science doesn't back this up. You can go Google it. There's this book by, he is a journalist, but he has read a ton of research. His name is Gary Taubes. Go read his books. They're fascinating. And
there's a ton of research on this. Healthy at Every Size has a ton of it. It's been going on forever.
Yes. And this whole concept of like, oh, calories in, calories out. Bullshit. So I put that on my story, and I got similarly the longest comment, the longest DM from a man whom I know professionally. So could possibly be triggering because we are in similar fields. But like I degaff. I don't give a shit or fuck about this guy. And his whole thing, he was like, oh, well, actually, he never said you're wrong. This is the other tricky thing that people do.
Right.
Never said I was wrong, but it was all the reasons why he was right. And he watched this YouTube video from a PhD, and I really should do myself a favor and go check it out. And I had this overwhelming desire to be nice and polite. I can easily tell anybody like, oh, fuck politeness. It doesn't matter. But then when it comes to me and my DMs, just me and the person, it's almost like we have been forced, cultured to be kind and polite. And especially when it's like, oh, but it's customer service. That is not an excuse for people to walk all over you. And I say this as that experience made me pissed off that I allowed that to happen. So I'm not saying it like I'm perfect. I'm saying because like been there, done that. Okay.
Right.
And so I like read his whole thing and I of course screenshotted it and like sent it to my friend who knows him mutually. And we like talk shit. And I was like, oh, I feel better now. And then I picked out the one part that I felt like I could agree with, which really was like the period at the end of the sentence. Like it was like not even part of it. And then I totally see what you're saying. I agree about da 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 da. And his response was like, I didn't even say anything about that. So I would have been better off just saying fuck off rather than trying to be polite and appease. The lesson, I'm tying it up. I swear we're getting to the lesson. I know this person. I follow them on social media. They are in the thick of diet culture and on a current weight loss journey, have lost all of this weight. So great. Also, did I mention he's a man? So he doesn't have this thing called like a menstrual cycle that actually makes you store things over the month, What I wish I had said, and I will say to you now, dear listeners and Miss Sybil, I'm sorry that you feel so triggered by me bringing diet culture, for front and center. You might want to look into why you're so triggered and then leave it at that because it has everything to do with him and nothing to do with me. But coming from a place of knowledge, like that's also why I don't talk about things I don't understand. I might hint at them, but I'm like, hey, I'm still learning about this thing because when I step forward with an opinion, I have things to back it up. And if you don't have things to back it up, like what are you doing anyways?
Right.
Don't be that is true. Don't parrot other people. Yeah. Have your own fucking opinions.
Right. Definitely like walk the walk that you talk. Mm-hmm. So, if you're just like repeating other people's opinions, like when you were a child and you're like, well, my daddy says this, then you don't want to be like holding up your hand. But for him, like I would have been like, well, here's some scientific studies and go fuck yourself.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even do that for people who challenge you because it's not my responsibility to do the labor of research for you when I know I'm right. And also it's Brene Brown talks about this too. Like,
I
unless
know. I
somebody
know.
is in the arena with you doing the things that you are doing, putting yourself out there, creating infographics, creating social media content, doing that stuff,
I know.
they don't get an opinion.
I know. I understand. I mean, this is the same reason why. So this is no different. So guys, this is no different when I talk about selling. Okay. I do not give a fuck. I don't sell to people who don't want product. So when somebody is like arguing with me about skincare and like how they want X, Y, and Z. So like, guys, I get DMs from you guys all the time about like, well, what about like the person who wants to go out and buy this product is bad for him? Go let them. Guess what? They are not the client for you and they want to go buy some shit. Let them. It is not your responsibility to make them want to have better skin. They are not ready for good skin. Let them have whatever fucking trash skin they want. They want trash skin. Let them have fucking trash skin.
Well, yeah, you can't save everybody.
Like this is how it is. And so I understand this is the same. It's the same conversation, different. It's the same conversation.
Yes.
So, and it takes a long time to get to that space where you're just like, I can't save you and I don't fucking care. I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I care about the person who's like, so I shouldn't be using CeraVe on my face? No, why not? Because it's not good for you. And not like, why isn't it good for me? It's just not. So what should I use instead? This has really a lot of money. It is. Is there something that's not a lot of money? I mean, there are variables. Okay, why don't we try this and we'll see how it goes. Okay, that's the person you're looking for.
Yeah. No, you can't save everybody, but I think there's like a special, I almost want to say a circle of hell for colleagues and professionals whose soul just like want to tear other people down. Like there is enough room for all, like, everyone. Can we just, I mean, I know we did, but haven't talked about Hamilton since it came out.
I know.
When Burr at the end says the world was wide enough for Hamilton and me, just freaking to the gut every single time, because that abundance mindset, and unfortunately for Burr in the fictional Hamilton, let's also not pretend it's historical before people get their panties all in a bunch.
Right.
He found out too late after he'd already killed Hamilton. Whoopsie doopsie. But for us, like the option to see the world as an abundant place with enough customers and enough knowledge and enough business for every single one of us, that shift in energy, I'm saying like it will change how you show up, how your colleagues see you, the types of questions, just like how you walk into a room. Like animals, dogs, seriously, you give her 1 inch, she will walk all over you. And I see it happening all the time because they don't care what you say or what you pretend. It's all about like literally Cesar Millan, your energy and how you show up. And you have to do that in business and online too.
True. It's so true. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of, so the imposter syndrome, okay? Because the other thing that's coming up with this from some of you is the idea that like, if you come out, so we're talking about just esthetician and esthetician in group. And now let's take that into the real world where like somebody makes a maybe a troll like opinion, which fucking don't do this to people. It's mean. Exactly. Come on. Where you're like, just like, well, I know more than you on your Instagram, Facebook, whatever YouTube channel page, right? And you're just like, first of all, who the hell are you to like be like talking smack to somebody else on their channel? Like unless you see that it's like a beauty blogger or something that's clearly like it's just wrong. So I'm on this app called Sherry, which by the way is full of just beauty bloggers like talking smack and not knowing information. And I literally just troll them all day long and I have such a good time.
Okay, you're saying don't be a troll, and yet you are a troll.
I know I can't, but I don't mean to troll. Like I'm just like, hey guys, so when you say that like this is this, it's just a lie.
Nobody likes to know it all.
It's just a straight up lie. So like, here's some information and go find it. But don't be just sitting around being like, that idea is just blatantly false and wrong because of these, because of my idea, right? You can say, hey, have you thought about this and this? Or what's your opinion on, you can ask questions. Like, I like to question, like, hey, I like what you're saying, but, what's your opinion on such and such? Right. And then if, as the esthetician or the makeup artist or the lash artist, so there are a lot of lash artists that got back to me because apparently lash artists are like, it's a cruel, cruel world for lash artists, man. I did not know, but lash artists, it is a cruel, cruel world. So if this is happening among you about like minky lashes, I don't know anything about lashes, minky lashes and whatever, make sure that you like are talking to each other as peers to each other, front facing. Do not be like snapping at each other. First of all, it makes everyone look bad.
Mm-hmm.
It makes our industry look bad.
Mm-hmm.
We look very catty and we don't look professional. And then second, like, it's just nice to be like peers to each other.
Well, I think also like whenever you feel the desire to ask even a question like that, I think that you need to pause. I mean, write it out. Don't hit send. Write it out. And then really ask yourself, like, what am I hoping to get as a result from this comment? Because 9.999 times out of 10, you're trying to tell somebody what to do. Even when you're phrasing it like a question. I know for me, at least, like that's always, I like write it and I'm like, oh, I'm just thinking that if I ask them this question, then they'll do what I think they should do because I don't think they're doing the right thing, And it's like,
true.
People are free to make their own decisions, terrible ones at that. They'll find your customers, your people will find you. And at the end of the day, I think we've talked about this before too. Like, do you actually care what other people think of you?
This is true. So is it of your opinion that you should just not comment on other people?
I refrain from commenting a lot of the time.
Yeah. Okay. So I know for myself in general, so let's talk about so first of all, I'm going to talk about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the idea that, you're not good enough.
Hold on one second. The thing says lost connection to server attempting to reconnect. God damn it.
Our internet is bad. Don't feel bad. I told you the internet has been like up and down all day. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, but I don't know if it says it's recording. I don't know what that means though.
We may or may not be recording. Mine says it's recording.
Okay, you don't have that yellow lost connection to server?
It says it's red and I'm like recording.
So I wonder if this is just gonna come back.
Do you want to stop and then start again to make sure?
I don't know.
I mean, we can easily just stop and then start again.
No, my internet's still working. I don't know what the fuck that was about, but it just scared me.
I would be scared. Like, we don't want to be like, and then there was nothing.
Yeah. Well, if it's still working on your end, and it's
mine's red, and it says Alex is using a device to record this call, and it's red on the Zencastr.
Yeah, the Zencastr is the only thing that matters, and I think I'm recording my audio here locally too, so it should be fine. Okay, so just pick up about imposter syndrome.
Okay, so for a second, I just want to talk about imposter syndrome. So the idea of imposter syndrome is the idea that you do not believe that you are like good enough to talk about something, that you have, not enough knowledge.
Feel like a fake, a fraud.
Yeah, a fake or fraud. Everybody has that at some point. Like, even and I know lots of stuff. There are times where I'll just be like, I don't know if I can talk about this. I actually had all of last year, I didn't want to record any videos on new sunscreen. In fact, I had like 25 videos on new sunscreen, and I didn't feel like releasing any of them because I felt like I didn't know enough. Okay, so imposter syndrome right here. And then I just looked back at all of them and I'm like, these are all perfectly fine. I'm an idiot. Right? I'm an idiot because they're all fine and I'm just stupid. So we all get it, guys.
You guys, even don't talk to yourself that way. Don't follow Sybil's lead.
We're all really, really lame sometimes.
that's like being human. Nobody's perfect. Come
No,
on.
none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. So I was definitely having some imposter syndrome last year when it came to UVA1 technology and how I didn't feel like I knew enough to talk about it to estheticians who listened to me.
I don't even know what that is, but okay.
Exactly. No one really does, which is why I was like, oh God, I don't want to give misinformation. People are going to talk about it and be like, well, Sybil said. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So if you are having that, understand that you probably still know more than most people. And you're going to go back and be like, I knew plenty and it was fine. Also, remember that it's completely okay for you to be like, oh, yeah, I made a mistake, but thanks for letting me know and like having this conversation with me. When I make mistakes, which happens, people school me and I'm like, oh my God, thanks so much for giving me that information. I so appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Thanks so much for letting me know. I really, really appreciate your keen eye.
especially with the eye rolling and the blinking and the winking. But I mean it not sarcastically. So the imposter syndrome is a thing. So, make sure that you're not falling into that category of imposter syndrome. And also, when you're coming forward with information, know that you probably have the right amount of information if you feel confident enough to say it.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. But also, nobody expects you to be the ultimate authority on any given topic.
Yeah.
Like I speak from my personal experience. I don't know about everything. I know a lot about this, and I know that we could certainly try this and see what happens. But I don't pretend to know it all.
Right.
Because it's not possible.
It really not. We're not. I mean, we consider ourselves experts, but not like the penultimate expert, man.
No,
Like
I just need to know more than the person who hires me.
Right. Exactly. And then I think that the other thing that I really wanted to make sure I touched on, because this is something that happened when I got all the DMs, was the confrontation issue. So how do you deal with kind of the confrontation when, people are talking to you? Do you delete them? Do you talk back to them? Do you ignore it? Like, how do you handle that situation? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, I asked Alex because I was like, I don't really have this happen too much. I mean, in general, for me, I personally would probably just ignore most of it. I mean, unless they really, really pissed me off, but you're asking for a flame war. A lot of these people want you to they want to have an argument.
Yeah. They're also, you're never going to change their mind on a certain thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we saw this with Black Lives Matter stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Still happening.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely posts that I'm still putting up that people are getting super. What was the one, the hot topic one that you put up that people were really angry about? The third rail. Oh, birth control. Who were getting really upset about your birth control, right?
Right. So you know what I did too? I put it back on the shelf and I said, let me go learn more so I feel confident answering anything that comes my way. But also I say that with asterisks, don't get caught in the analysis paralysis that we talked about where you feel like UVA1. Mm-hmm. I need to know everything before I can even talk about it.
Right. Totally. This is true. So I'm going to tell a story real quick. So I have a post right now, speaking of posts that have nothing to do with, a little bit to do with fear, not imposter syndrome. So I have a post right now that I want to put up that I feel very strongly about. And it's part of my pillars. And it's essentially me and a client standing next to each other. And I have a unicorn shirt. I think I was wearing it on the last episode, where it has unicorns and a rainbow, and then it has a rhino on it. And the shirt's artist calls it "Be What You Want to Be." Okay. And essentially the rhino is like, I'm super proud I'm a unicorn. Okay. And one of my clients always comes in and she's like, I'm wearing my unicorn shirt because I'm a unicorn with you. But hers is that unicorn shirt where it's a unicorn. It's a rhino running on a treadmill looking at a poster of a unicorn. And if you don't know the shirt, we'll try to put it in the show notes. And I'm always looking at this shirt being like, they're not the same shirts and they're such different messaging. And I hate that shirt's messaging because that messaging is essentially you're fat, but you want to be a unicorn if you work out hard enough. Mm-hmm. And she was when she was here recently, she was like, let's take pictures together so we can both be like unicorns. And I'm like, I'm already a unicorn. Your shirt says that you'll be a unicorn if you work out hard enough. And I totally I took the picture and I cropped out her head and I was just like, I really want to post this one. And I've been sitting on it for a week. It's like post about these two shirts. And I don't want to post it because I don't want to hurt her feelings.
Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yep, totally. Totally how I feel about it. And yet the message, I went out there. So these are the things that sometimes when you're like thinking about, well, do I want to post things? That you do them and then you don't post them.
Well, and the story can come from a different place. You know, like I think of like themes or like what's the point I want to get across with this social media post, for example. And I had a post last week that the first draft of that one in the garage that has done exceedingly well as far as engagement on my pages. The first draft of it sucked and it was very preachy and very wagging a finger. Don't do this and you shouldn't do this. And even as I wrote it, I was like trying to tone it down. I was just like, let me speak from my experience and my story and write something that resonates. Like storytelling connects. And so when I told the story based on me and my experience, I was able to get the same point that I wanted to share, which is just like, be who you are, but it resonated better than if I just was like, you should do this and you should do that. So maybe even for you, for this post and this message, there's a way to share it that's not putting that specific shirt because of its relationship to your client down, but a way to share that.
We'll have to see. Because it is something that is triggered for me. Like every time I see that shirt, I'm like, oh God, literally.
But so diet culture is everywhere.
I know, which is why I'm super glad it's one of your pillars. Because it's for me, I do post about like feeling good to be yourself all the time. So, and it should be one of your pillars. I'm always very happy. So guys, I hope that you are feeling maybe a little bit better about going out there, posting. We've had a lot of posting episodes and fear-based episodes. And I think it's because we're on a little social media a little more often right now because of quarantine.
Nothing else to do.
I know that a lot of us got closed down again. So we'll probably have to be talking a little bit about that fear.
If you haven't started your email list, start it now.
Right. And I'm hoping that you guys feel a little bit more confident and better about going out, dealing with, maybe the trolls and the people who are talking smack to you. Also about just, weathering when they do that. And then if you are somebody who's talking smack, just fucking stop. But hopefully you're not one of my
listeners. An asshole.
Hopefully you're not one of my listeners. Because if you are, but just stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, seriously. I was gonna say too, like, just it's very different of telling somebody to do something and that they should listen to you because you know stuff versus, hey, here's my experience and here's what I learned and here's what I'm in process of still learning. And I think that applies regardless of the topic of what you're talking about. Like, even if you are talking about like, racism or injustice or whatever, if you present it in that way, then it's a completely different story.
This is true.
Be storytellers, get your journals, get your pens, get writing.
Get your journals. Get your journals. Put them out and start writing. Oh my God. I don't write my
journaling. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Actually, I had an experience this week where I opened my journal and I didn't have anything to write about. And I was just like, oh, what's wrong with you? So then I went on Instagram, #journal prompts.
A million things.
So many prompts. I could write for hours.
There you go. Magic, guys. You can write for hours with journal prompts. Or you can be like me and just be like, whatever, journaling. It's cool. I'm fine either way.
I just write one tiny page. Like, I think it's not even 8.5 by 11. It's like what would that be? 4 by 11 or something. It's a small page. It's good for you. It helps you sleep. She stopped yawning at me.
So tired, guys. I'm not been sleeping at all. So, I'm in the midst of a move. I'm closing my spa, which is very traumatic. We could do a whole episode on the trauma of closing a spa. And every time a client comes in, how they hug you, even though it's COVID, and I'm fine with it. And they're like, "Can I hug you?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's do this thing." And it looks like this. You have a mask on. You're just like, "Okay, let's do it." And they're like, and they hold you for the longest hug known to man because they haven't hugged people, and they're just like, "Oh my God, we're touching. We're touching. This is amazing." Yeah. So, yeah, it's very traumatic. If you're closing a spot, let me know. I want to know. Tell me you're closing your spot, or if you just never reopened, and I want to know about that.
Yeah, tell us your stories. Maybe we'll share some stories of navigating this like really weird time.
Yeah, or if you're pivoting, like what's going on? I want to hear. We'll do some interviews, do some interviewing, which we have some cool interviews coming up, guys. Cool interviews coming down the pipeline.
Buckle up.
It's gonna be fun. Some good times. Okay, guys, I'm looking at our notes, and I think that's what we have.
So send us your stories. I think if you have a closing story, the best way to deliver it would be by leaving us a voicemail in our box.
Yes, because we do have a Skinfessional box. And the phone number is 818-473-5277.
That's also in the show notes and description if you can't listen to numbers and write them down, which I cannot, so don't worry about it. Or send us a DM as long as you want, or tag us on Instagram at Skinfessional or at Hala from Hala or at Your Skin Fitness Expert.
Which we got some crazy long DMs, guys. So I appreciate all of the long DMs. So it was pretty epic this time, guys.
Speaking of DMs, I got a request, no nudes, but $1,500 a month. Do you think it's real? Yes or no?
$1,500? That's it?
I mean, I was just like, damn, that pays rent.
I'm like, could you like Photoshop body, like somebody else's body? Like, and me, but like Kardashian body.
I don't even know. There's so many questions that I don't want to know.
Oh, you do get the interesting comment, people. Like you just get
freaking weirdo.
You have like the foot guy. You have like, we talked about like, can you sell your underwear? Who are you as a person? What are you doing with your life? It's funny.
Well, apparently I'm inviting that. That's what the world wants me to think.
It's totally true. Okay, cool. And so, guys, until next week.
Keep your secrets to yourself.
Unless you're telling us.
Okay, bye.
Bye.